Welcome back to The Writing Life. One day, I promise I will settle on a name for this series of videos. Yeah, I'm probably lying. That probably won't ever happen. But anyway, I'm John Hartness. I am a professional writer, editor, publisher, podcaster, YouTube guy, comic book nerd. I don't know. I do a lot of things, and this is one of them. Today, I've got some cool stuff to show off, and then we're going to talk about why print is less important for small press and self-published authors than it is for major press authors, and why you as a small press author or a self-published author should put your focus in other places rather than killing yourself to try and get into bookstores. But first, show and tell. So this is an awesome handmade cross-stitched, is this cross-stitch? I think this, whatever. It's a handmade, I think it's cross-stitch, whatever. I'm calling it that even if I'm wrong. It is a handmade little piece of art in a cool frame that showed up on my doorstep yesterday. And it comes from my friend Mark, who is, I first met him as a fan of our Authors and Dragons podcast that I do with Rick Galtieri, Robert Bevan, Steve Wetherill, Drew Hayes, and Joe Brassi. And Mark became known to all of us as Fuck You Mark, because I don't even remember what he asked. He asked something in the comments, probably said something in the comments about his brother was jealous because he had said something silly in the comments, and we told Mark, fuck you, Mark. And his brother said, why don't they ever say fuck you to me? So he said, fuck you, Mark's brother. And ever since then, he's been fuck you, Mark. He even signed the back of the picture, fuck you, Mark. So Mark, thanks a lot. I really do appreciate it. And from the bottom of my black, shriveled little heart, fuck you. So the other thing I've got to show you is completely, diametrically opposed to what I'm about to talk about. It's an unboxing video. New print copies of the newest Quincy Harker Demon Hunter paperback just showed up today. And let me lay this out for you. I don't know whose dick I gotta suck at UPS to get my driver to stop leaving boxes on the wet-ass front porch in the middle of the rain when there's a perfectly good overhang, legit 12 inches in front of where you left it. But fine, I'm there. I'll buy brand new knee pads. I don't know what I need to do. But Jesus, fuck, quit leaving my shit in the rain. I knew these were coming today, so I was paying attention so they didn't get wet. But there is, I don't know, it doesn't really show. This has been sitting in my office for a couple hours now. But there is some water damage to the bottom of the box. The books inside will be fine because, like I said, it didn't sit outside for very long. But if this had shown up yesterday, it was raining like pouring piss out of a boot all day yesterday around here. This shit would have gotten soaked. I would have been grumpy. I am a large redneck. Nobody likes it when I'm grumpy. I used to work in an office where whenever it was time to open a box, I'd pull out my pocket knife and pop it open, and they'd look at me. Somebody looked at me once and said, why do you carry a pocket knife everywhere? To which I honestly responded, why don't you? I've carried a pocket knife pretty much every day of my life since I was 11 years old. The only times I don't have my pocket knife are when I've flown somewhere. And even then, I usually put it in my checked bag. So as soon as I get my checked bag, I've got my pocket knife again. Or two, my wife has borrowed it. And invariably, if I've loaned it to my wife, it's going to be a day or two before I figure out where she put it down rather than giving it back to me. Subsequently, I have now ordered little tiny box cutters. This is international symbol for me sliding my thumb along the edge of a box cutter to open it up, that I can just leave everywhere around the house so I can give her one of those instead of my pocket knife. But anyway, so I'm not a fan of Amazon KDP's packaging. See, that didn't happen with CreateSpace. CreateSpace knew how to pack a book. The folks at KDP, when they moved their facilities from Charleston to Columbia, even though it's less than 3 hours, and they certainly could have kept some of the same people, apparently they didn't keep the know how to pack books in a box guy, because invariably they don't use the really nice, perfectly sized boxes that hold 4 6x9 books in a rectangle with dividers in between that keep the books from going anywhere, that they always used at CreateSpace. They don't use those if there's a smaller box that they can finagle shit around and make it fit. So I get a lot of things that are just bent enough to annoy me, but not bent enough for Amazon to replace. This one is going on my brag shelf, but this is Inflection Point. This is the 6th Quincy Harker book. This, starting with Carl Perkins' Cadillac, midway through last year, we flipped the Quincy Harker series from 4 novellas a year, then collected into 1 volume, into 2 novels a year. So this released in ebook on December 31st, and it will be launching in print at MarsCon this coming weekend, which is January 16th? 17th? I don't know what day it is today, so I don't know what day it's going to be on Friday when the convention starts. That's one of the biggest hazards of working from home, and going multiple days without pants. But I am wearing pants today. I had a guy from the insurance company coming over to deal with the renovations. So I put on pants. I'm wearing shoes, y'all. Not my fuzzy monster slippers, but like real shoes. But anyway, this will be the first convention that we've had Inflection Point on hand for. And let's see, how many did I get? Because I don't remember how many I ordered. 1 for the shelf. 1 for my Patreon patron, Sean, who has been a patron for a long time. And Sean donates at the Patreon level that gets him a free copy, not free because he pays for it through Patreon, but it gets him a print copy signed of every book that I publish. So thank you, Sean. This is a print copy for Missy, who is another one of my Patreon patrons who's pledged at the $50 a month level, which gets her an autographed copy of everything that I publish. So thank you, Missy. It also gets her random thank yous on my YouTube channel. That wasn't something I said in the Patreon because I didn't do this when I started the Patreon. And this is for Dino. Dino is a Falstaff Books Patreon patron at the $50 a month level. So Dino will get Inflection Point signed by me, and he will also get copies of everything else that we release in print from Falstaff Books. So thank you, Dino, and Sean, and Missy, and all the rest of my patrons. My Patreon goes a long way at supporting my convention travel. I do somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 conventions a year all over the Southeast, and that's a lot of travel. And when you are a mid-list writer like me and you're going to conventions, usually all the expense is on you. For example, when I go to MarsCon this weekend, I'm leaving on Thursday because we have to load in the booth for the dealer room Friday and be set up by 2 o'clock. Williamsburg, Virginia is about 6 hours away from Charlotte, and I don't do mornings, so I don't want to get up at 5 to leave at 6 to get to Williamsburg by 12 or 1 to load in and be ready to go at 2, because then I'm stressing all day about getting there on time, about getting loaded in on time, yada, yada, yada. So I'm going up early. So I'm riding solo. So gas is on me. Hotel for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Now, Friday and Saturday nights, I'm splitting my room with 2 other writers. So that really cuts down on the cost. But I'm on the hook for Thursday all on my own, plus gas to get home and all my food for the weekend, plus the cost of the dealer tables. And because we have so many titles with Falstaff, we now have to have 2 tables anywhere we go. So conventions are expensive, and our Patreon really does help defray the cost of our attendance at these conventions. So, conventions where we'll be launching books, like these. Let's see how many I got. I suck at unboxing videos, by the way, because there should be like you shooting down into this and blah, 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 and that's not going to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I ordered 14 copies. 15 copies. 4 of them are spoken for, 3 to Patreon patrons, and 1 to my brag shelf, which, let me put this down. I don't know, do I still have room? Yeah, something's gonna have to move. Oh, it's up there, you guys can't see it. So, this is the shelf with all of the books that I've written on it. And this is a shelf with anthologies that I've edited, anthologies that I have had stories in, and a couple of books that I wrote the foreword for. But as you can see, that guy's pretty full. I'm probably going to have to move those novellas down. I'm never going to get that set again. Oh, no, that's fine. Okay. So, why do I order print books and then tell indie authors, don't worry about print? I order print books, and as you can see, I order a flaming ass ton of print books. Ass ton is bigger than a buttload, and a buttload is an actual measurement of how much wine can fit in a butt or cask of wine. I don't know how much a buttload is, but it's less than an ass ton. I carry a lot of print inventory because I go to a lot of conventions, and I'm pretty good at selling books face-to-face to human beings. I'm moderately amusing, I'm self-deprecating, and I'm not the least bit shy. Some people even find me funny, which is awesome, unless they mean funny looking, which is just true. So because I do a couple dozen conventions every year, I have a lot more opportunities to sell print books face-to-face to humans. That's how I move print. That's not how New York publishers move print books, because New York publishers don't go places where they see 20 or 30,000 or 5,000 humans day in, day out. New York sells the majority of their print books through bookstores. I know, shocker, right? Why don't I? Why don't I sell a lot of books through Barnes & Noble? Returns. For me to make, if I make this book returnable, this is a $14.99 paperback. When I print this book through Ingram Spark, which is the printer and distributor that bookstores will buy from, because you can print it through Amazon, but bookstores don't like Amazon because Amazon competes with bookstores. So bookstores are less likely to buy your book if it's only available through Amazon. Therefore, print your book in 2 places. Print it on Amazon because your cost per copy for author copies is cheaper, and your shipping is cheaper because Amazon ships a lot more shit, and they have better rates with UPS than probably anybody. So this is a $15 paperback. By the time the distributor takes their cut, the printer takes their cut, and the bookstore takes their cut, Falstaff Books, which is the company I run, Falstaff Books gets $3. That's how I build the prices, because $3 is 20% of cover price, which means that if I divide that in half with the author gets 10%, which is the royalty that we pay on print, and the company keeps 10%. The other 80% is divided between the printer, the distributor, which in this case are the same person, and the bookstore. So the bookstore on this book gets a 40% discount off cover price. 40% of $15 is $6. So the bookstore pays $9 for this book. If I make this book returnable and a bookstore buys it, here's how that works. The bookstore pays Ingram, my distributor, $9. Ingram pays me $3. 90 days later, by the way, Ingram hasn't paid me that $3 yet. Ingram doesn't pay me until the bookstore pays them. The bookstore has 90 days to either pay Ingram or send the book back. If they return the book to Ingram within 90 days, they get their $9 back. Where does that $9 come from? Well, Ingram still printed this book. So Ingram is going to get their money for printing and shipping this book. So that $9 gets billed back to me, the publisher. Remember, the publisher who got paid $3 for this book. So if I make this book returnable and it comes back to Ingram, I get charged 3 times what I got paid. Plus, if I want them to then send the book to me so I can maybe sell it and hope to recoup my $9 that I'm now out, or we'll say $6 that I'm now out, they charge me another $2. So this book that the bookstore promised to pay $9 for, didn't sell it, so didn't pay the $9 for, it went back to the book distributor. The book distributor had promised me $3, but since the book didn't sell, I don't get that $3. I get billed a total of $11 for this $15 book. Take out $3, the mythical $3 I would have been paid, and if I make this book returnable, I lose $8 on every copy that comes back. Let's say that's not a big deal until 500 copies come back. If I make a book publishable, if I make a book returnable and it's by a major mid-list author, there may be 1,000, 2,000 pre-orders. All right. Let's say there are 2,000 pre-orders. 2,000 pre-orders on a $15 book is going to get me $6,000. 500 returns is going to cost me $5,500. So I've sold 2,000 copies of a $15 book, which means I owe the author $3,000, and my net after all the returns is $500. Yes, there is a thing called reserve against returns, which is a complicated way for publishers to mitigate that kind of risk. But if I screw up the math on my reserve against returns, or if they send back one of my books, I'm in the hole for a couple $1,000. This is a very small business. I don't know if you can tell, but we operate fairly lean here. I'm not wearing no Armani wrestling t-shirts. So losing $1,000 or losing $5,000 on a book, yeah, that can sink a company. Therefore, my books aren't returnable. Therefore, bookstores don't just randomly order 5 copies of the next John Hartness book. Therefore, John doesn't pay much attention to print. John pays attention to ebooks and audiobooks. Who buys print books? I know you're all out there saying, I do. No. From the publisher's standpoint, bookstores and libraries buy print books. Who buys audiobooks and ebooks? This is where you raise your hand. Human beings buy ebooks and audio. Organizations buy print books. We're talking in quantity here. Yes, you can go to falstaffbooks.com, hit the button for our Square store and buy any book that we have in stock. And if it's mine, I'll autograph it for you. But the vast majority of print sales are done through bookstores or done to libraries. If you're doing a couple $1 million a year in book sales, you can handle the risk on losing a couple $1,000s on some books. If your gross revenue's $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, you can't lose $2,000 very many times before you're having a real bad year. So before I ran Falstaff, me as a self-published author, and now us as Falstaff Books, we focus on reaching humans. That's why I have a YouTube channel instead of paying out the ass for a Kirkus review. That's why I have a Twitter account that I use all the time, as opposed to trying to make sure that my shit is listed in a library journal. That's why I go to 20 science fiction and fantasy conventions all around the Southeast instead of trying to go to Book Expo America each year, because I want to reach individual readers. And if you are a self-published or small press author, that's who you want to reach too. So find humans. You build your audience as a writer, one person at a time. One fuck you mark at a time. One Sean or Missy or Dino at a time. These are the people that you're building your career on. I've got people who've been reading my books since 2009, and I'm so goddamn grateful for them, I can't even see straight. I also kind of can't see straight because I think I might have put my contacts in the wrong eyes this morning, but that's beside the point. The point is, do the things that put you in touch with readers. Your publisher, if they have national bookstore distribution, they should be working to put your book in bookstores. You don't care. You also get a smaller cut on print books. So you can very easily affect your ebook and your audiobook sales by your self-promotion and your social media. Don't forget to tell people when you have a book coming out. Don't forget to remind people that you have books. I was talking to a friend of mine who I published just last week, and she said, there are people who I've known for 15 years who have no idea I've ever written a book. And she thinks she talks about it all the time on social media. But real life friends of hers from middle school, high school, the neighborhood, block party, whatever, I don't know. I don't know where people make friends these days. I stay in this little office all the time. She's got friends who don't know she writes. So make sure that you're telling people all the time that this is a thing you do. All right. So to recap, I have a new book out. Look, is this cover not awesome? And yes, that's a Medusa. And yes, that did mean that I had to tell my cover artist that I'm shit scared of snakes, and it's the one thing that freaks me out. So I expect her to use that to her evil ends at some point. You can go to anywhere books are sold and pick these up. If you see me at a convention, I will have them unless you're late and I've sold out, and then yeah, I should have showed up earlier. Or you can go to falstaffbooks.com, click the little button for our Square store, and you can order autographed copies there. You can join our Patreon and I'll just send you stuff. You can, I don't know, like, subscribe, smash that bell. I don't know, is that what I'm supposed to say? Whatever. I'm going to go finish my chapter because I'm still working on Black Knight 8. And you guys, be good to one another, okay?